Yeah.
It's not going to go anywhere.
I'm not used to this, mate.
Just there.
Right then.
Yeah, I can see you.
Right then.
Camera's there. You got us?
Yeah. Can I, where do you want me to talk?
Down there. Give us a...
Oh, there's the camera.
Nice.
Episode 2.
Deuce. All right.
Let's go natural.
Dave, how you going?
Good, Rory. How are you?
Yeah, very good, mate. Thanks for joining us. I'm sure you saw the last episode with Code, mate. Just got you on to let everyone know a bit about yourself because as opposed to only knowing you for 3 years, mate, I didn't know too much about you before I come up here and I thought you were a lot older than what you are, to be honest. It felt like when you got drafted, I was a long way out of AFL, but now we're here and you're only 2 years older than me, mate. So tell us a bit about your childhood growing up in Perth.
Yeah. That's it's funny. Even being at the club, I probably feel like I'm, I don't know, 36 or something, but I've still only 31. So hopefully got a few good years left ahead. But yeah, grew up in Perth. Great state of WA over there in the west. I guess had a pretty normal upbringing. One of 4 boys. So yeah, obviously my brother Andrew played at North Melbourne for a few years there, and 2 other brothers, Chris and Simon as well. So I think of myself as being pretty lucky. I had 2 loving mum and dads, and what? Two.
Wait, sorry,
I didn't have 2 pairs, but I had a loving mother and father.
I thought so.
Got looked after. Yeah, pretty well.
Well, that would have been acceptable as well, though. Don't mind you. That's true. That's fine.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
And was it always footy, mate, growing up? With your brother being skipper in North Melbourne as well, was it always going to go down the football path for you, or was it just popped up and you were good at it, so you pursued that? Yeah,
I think Andrew, he sort of paved the way. I think he actually didn't start playing sort of AFL until he was probably 12, so he was sort of a late to the sport a bit in a sense. But then I sort of played at the same time, so I would have started, I was kick or whatever at 7 or 8, and then he sort of, once he got drafted, it was, I don't know, it would have been 12 or 13, so just starting high school. That was sort of all I wanted to do. I played cricket in the summer, and the school I went to was actually a specialist volleyball school, so randomly I played high school volleyball.
Which would have been in that.
Yeah, did a bit of that, which was good fun. I don't know, it was definitely a different sport, but enjoyed it as well.
And then go and pick one. Is that, you wouldn't have been asked this for a long time now, being how many years now? Is this 14? 15?
Yeah, going into, this is my 14th season.
14th, so you wouldn't have been asked this in a long time, I don't think. Yeah. But thinking back then, like what is that night like for yourself and family?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously, it's a long time ago, but you still remember it. I probably take you back to like that time I actually came to the Suns a year earlier than what my draft year was, if that makes sense. So when the Suns were coming into the competition, they had the first 3 picks that year, but they were also coming in to play VFL the year before, and they were trying to get their list together. And so I got a call I think my parents got a call actually from Bluey McKenna at the time, and sort of proposed to them, did I want to move over 12 months early and sort of get started, get myself used to playing, or I suppose living up in Queensland and doing all those sorts of things. So I suppose in terms of like being drafted, like I probably knew 12 months that was what my future was going to be. Finally got to draft night, and it was like just a realisation like you'd sort of achieved my dream since I was a young boy. So pretty awesome. Had all my family and everyone there, and I think I might have turned 18 on the draft night. So that was cool as well. We got to go out and celebrate after.
Yeah, first beer.
Yeah, first beer, exactly.
Nice. And as I'm fully aware of, like all happens pretty quick. So how long until you actually moved up here and settled in with, I'm sure, was quite a young group with everyone pretty well getting drafted at the same time. You guys get pretty close over that period as well?
Yeah. So I finished high school, so I would have literally finished year 12, which is probably, I've got another story about that. Maybe we can talk about that later. Finished year 12, and then basically went on my schoolies a week with all my mates, and then moved up here like the following week. I think it was November that year, and then got stuck into my first sort of always professional, but pre-season.
Well, before we get too far into the footy, what did year 12 have in store for us?
It wasn't funny. It not looking back on it, like it was before I got drafted, or before I moved up here. We had our at our school we had a muck up day. I don't know if they don't really do them nowadays, but me and my mates sort of went to the school and as high school kids do, like we just threw a bit of manure down the corridors and just did a couple other things. As you do. But the same night, unfortunately, there was and a lot of other kids had decided to go there and do the same thing, but there was a lot of sort of vandalism and stuff, which was disappointing because we got sort of tarnished with that same brush, and then.
But throwing shit down hallways isn't vandalism.
Well, ours was meant to be a bit more funny, but
right.
Wasn't serious damage. It was,
that's cool vandalism, but the other one was like proper vandalism.
They'd done like broken windows and cameras and lots of worth a lot of money. So anyway, that was kind of my first taste of being like in the AFL world. It was like there was a news article about it, and I was before I'd even moved to the Sun. So that was kind of had to deal with all that sort of pressures and stuff, and it was kind of sad in a way because I didn't actually get to go to my graduation, and all my friends who we were quite close, we were pretty shattered, but
didn't really get to close that book.
No, exactly. So, it was sort of straight on to the next thing, which was kind of had to move on pretty quick and forgive myself and. Get on with things up here. Yeah,
well, you're all still pretty close with those guys, as I've seen at a couple of your gatherings and your wedding and all those sorts of things. So I'm sure you've made up for lost time, mate.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I've been pretty fortunate. So all my sort of high school mates, we've managed to really keep close, and they've sort of not stuck by with me, but they've been sort of on this journey with me, from afar in Perth, and always supportive of the club and what we're trying to do. So
yeah. And on that, with the club obviously being here 14 years now, a lot's changed from the back sheds with no aircon now to in this nice facility over here. Like, have you had time to reflect on, and hindsight's a beautiful thing, with another startup team in the Giants coming in as well? Like another team there to compare. Like, is there anything you potentially would change, or where you see like we might have been able to do stuff a bit better and all those sorts of things? You've seen two clubs come together and assemble a brand spanking new list from scratch. Is there anything you reckon, or that's jumped out at you over the past that we've missed, or you would have liked to have done better?
Yeah, I mean, there's probably always things you think of. I think, I don't know if it's a trap, but I've probably found myself early days, especially when the Giants started going really well, was like, there's obviously those comparisons there. So you would compare like, how they're going and, why aren't we achieving that? I suppose this probably doesn't answer your question, but in terms of my circumstances, like I felt like in my career, like the team was like, we were really starting to hit our straps, probably year 4. I think it's 2014, and, playing some really good footy, really exciting. We were, I think during that year we were sitting 7-2 early in the year, and then sort of Gaz went down. Like it was kind of one of those things where, I don't know, if I think back to then, like how could we have younger guys have taken a bit more control of that season, and whether that like diminished our sort of spirits, losing our best player and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But then personally, like the following year, 2015, 2016, like it just, like you talked about earlier, it goes so fast. Like I basically missed 2 seasons through injury. So while obviously the club was having its own struggles, like I suppose personally as well, I was going through a bit in those times where, maybe like I don't know if I disconnected from the group, or like sort of trying to fight my own battles in a way. But it was hard watching on for those 2 years, just seeing like we sort of went backwards. I think in 2014 we won 10 games. That year was our best season, and then obviously we lost. Well, the club decided to sack a coach, so that was like another sort of a big moment, I guess, in the club's sort of history, and then it was we started again with Rocket, and so I don't know. There's been all these sort of moments and things, and I think at the like going through all those times, I was always comparing, always trying to, why aren't we doing this? But I think like I've learned over the journey was just to like, I know you kind of learn from your own experiences as well, and which I think I've been able to do over the years, like whether that's been, coming back from injuries or, being put in, being skipper or whatever. I know we'll may touch on that later, but.
You talk about injuries. So what exactly did you have? It was with your knee, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I did a PCL, which was, I did one in my second year as well. But I sort of just managed that. I think I missed about 10 weeks, but in my fifth year, I did sort of the same injury to the other leg. And then when I came back 10 weeks later, sort of similar process, but then I re-injured that again in 2015, and then missed that sort of like, there was a cascade of events. Then I ended up having that like reconstructed, and then because I was going to miss 6 months with that injury, we made a decision to operate on my left leg, which was like actually going okay, but because I had probably half a PCL basically in my left knee as well. So we decided to operate on that as well. So
it was a lot.
Yeah, had the lot. So I was walking out with like 2 straight legs, like both in casts. That was pretty. Yeah, that probably wasn't my. Those were some pretty dark times.
Trying times, yeah.
Yeah, legs were like little sticks, which was like trying to build back all your muscle on that from those. The guys that have had knee problems would understand. But then when I was sort of coming back from those injuries, I basically smashed up my left knee just from like doing all the rehab training, and then I ended up missing the rest of 2016 too. So it was basically like bound to a bike and no running for probably 6 months.
So you were saying 6 games over 2 years?
Yeah.
So over that period of time, like, did you get to a dark place at all, or like, and if so, was there anyone you could lean on, or like, did you just keep them to yourselves? Because I've heard you touch on it before, where you kind of felt here, but you didn't as well. You were just kind of cruising the hallways because there wasn't a heap to do. And
I think like in those times, you just learn a lot about yourself, and kind of, I was sort of at a funny age too. Like I think I was at 23.
Really about to get going, right?
Yeah, like I sort of like felt like that 2014 was probably my best season.
I remember watching come off a monster season.
Yeah, and like felt like sort of navigated the first few seasons. Obviously like being a top pick, there were all the pressures and that come with that, and sort of finally started to feel like I was getting to the top of my game, and then that was sort of I got to like. Yeah, it sort of all came to a halt. So it was like, trying to make sense of it all. I suppose like trying to lean on others around me for support, and obviously family and stuff. I probably all those pressures of probably being the number one pick. It was a good time for me to actually like talk to people and just ask. We had like good psychologists and all that back then. So, but I think a lot of it was like, just, I went down a bit of a rabbit hole. I'd read like all these, self-help books and that sort of thing, just to trying to make sense of, why this was happening.
Yeah. And how you feeling?
Yeah. And like how I was feeling. So like that was kind of also may have coincided with like a bit more awareness around like, mental health and all that sort of stuff was like, this sort of bigger in that space. And I guess it gave me good perspective. Like I was kind of like, well, I'm still playing AFL. Like I'm still living my dream. Like, yes, I might not be able to do it, but it gave me a lot more motivation to try and get back, and try and make an impact, not on just I suppose in the footy club, and then I suppose like you fast forward time a bit longer, and then I've sort of stayed on and had kids and stuff. So I think a lot of my learnings have just come from stuffing up and you know, like injuries, that was probably my biggest teacher. Like, about like what mentally I can go through, you know, the areas that you get to in those sort of days. I think that makes sense.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, mate. That's awesome. It's not stuff you usually get to hear, especially coming from such an integral part of a playing group and someone who was then skipper and obviously goes pick one. So
I think most people look at me and they think, oh, nothing
phases you.
Nothing really phases me, but there was a few years where I really had to try to figure out who I was and what make sense of all my experiences to try to come out at it better at the other end. So
well, I think that's what we definitely see now. Yeah. As you've been a 31-year-old husband, father of two, like it doesn't seem like much phases you now, but people wouldn't realise that like it was shitty.
It's not always like that. Like you say, like I suppose everyone has a story and it's just like my story's just probably been like I know I might be going off a bit of a tangent here, but
keep going, mate. Go hard.
Like guys like I really like looked up to were like like Nathan Jones from Melbourne, like sort of like would always follow other guys' journeys and he was someone that like was just like absolute trooper at Melbourne and maybe never saw the success that I know that he played in some finals and stuff up and I think he probably missed the granny in the end back when they won it. But he was someone who like was there in the dark days and was able to kind of bring that club through a difficult period. So I kind of sort of learnt from other people, maybe not knowing them that well, but they were sort of like mentoring me through these sort of situations. And then, I guess that was kind of someone like him would have been like my inspiration to kind of stick around and then also opportunity, like things that happened with the club, like we lost when we lost like Maisie and Lynchy, things like that. It's like, all right, well, what's all this mean? You know, that's another pivotal moment. It's like, what's the next few years going to look like?
Yeah, for sure. Learn through all your experiences. You touched on the great man, Gaz, before. Yeah. What was it like having him around? He obviously come up to kickstart the joint. He played some awesome footy. Did you learn a lot off him?
Oh, yeah. Like, I think Gaz was... Like he's clearly a freak, right? He's probably the best player to play the game. So it was, I think, overriding feeling was just like, I was so grateful to be able to like experience that. Like some of the stuff that he would do game day was just, he just couldn't replicate it. Like I know we were talking off air, like even the fact that some days he would sort of be in his runners at training and like it's like he's still dodging and weaving blokes, like he was that strong through his core, like he would I don't know if this was something that Gaz like did because it made him a better player, but I have to talk to him about it. But like he would be doing like full on drills just in his runners in pre-season and blokes are falling off trying to tackle
everyone else in boots.
And like it was amazing. Like there's obviously a genetic component there, but it was pretty special.
And did he have many quirks? He had his little stuff going on that he was very meticulous, you were saying?
Yeah, he was I think he was ahead of his time, like when it comes to like his diet and like his attention to like his recovery and that. Like he obviously getting banged up every week would get tagged most weeks, but like the amount of time I saw him like spending on his recovery and I think he was a little bit different. Like you may not have always seen him doing it around the club, but if you came in here like after hours or like there'd be some days he'd roll in like at night and you just see Gaz sitting in the ice bath or like in the heat room doing like a random cross training session or something like that, which I think in his head was like that was always giving him an edge over his sort of oppo and that maybe that mentality, like doing more than what other guys were doing. Just like on his diet, like I know he was like, there was a few years where he was experimenting. He was going like, I don't know if he was going like veggie, then it was like paleo, and there's like now someone who's like a bit older, like, because I was pretty young back then, but sort of understanding what he was, now I understand like he was, so like switched on, like making sure he was getting everything out of his body.
You don't get it when you're younger, do you? You look at the older fellas or someone who's trying something, you go, what are they doing? Like, why?
It's like Witsy with his gluten-free at the moment.
Yeah, why would you possibly be doing that?
Yeah.
Like, but then when you actually get of age, you're like, how can I get just 5 to 10% more out of myself? Because everyone's doing the same training, everyone's doing the same conditioning.
Oh, exactly, yeah. And I think with like nowadays you probably see it more with like social media and stuff. There's, I don't know if there's more info out there so you can, you know, I know that at the moment everyone's into
drink this bone broth and you'll sleep for 15 hours
and whatever. But
yeah,
back then Gaz seemed to be like the only one that was doing it. So pretty, yeah, we were all just eating our pastas and that, and Gaz had the sweet potatoes on the plane. But yeah, like it obviously worked for him. He was
the freak. Yeah. So as this, I got a story about Gaz. I was playing for Adelaide and we were playing Geelong at Adelaide Oval. And you know when Juddy was doing the retirement thing, he'd announced that this is going to be his last season, like this is the last ride sort of thing, or the last dance. And Cam Guthrie did the jumper swap with him and it blew up. So they're both walking off the pitch with like Juddy's got the Geelong Guernsey, Cam Guthrie, and Guthrie's got the Juddy one over his shoulder. I'm like, right, well, we play him in a couple of weeks. I don't know how much longer Gaz has got left. He ended up going to play for like another 4 years. Yeah. I was like, when's he going to call it? And one of my favourite players to watch growing up. So we played him. We beat them at Adelaide Oval when we were doing the handshake. Never met him in my life. I'm like, because it was a forefront of my mind and it happened at Geelong, I was like, oh, I reckon he'll do it. It was just kind of, it's right there. And I was like, oh, mate, do you reckon like the old jumper swap, like chuck the Adelaide Crows? You've got a spot for the Adelaide Crows 21 in there, don't you, somewhere in the pool room? So he's like, yeah, no dramas, because I really wanted his jumper and he's going to take it off. And I thought I was doing something smart. I'm like, no, mate, don't worry about it here. I know danger, because Paddy was playing for Geelong at that stage. I was like, I'll just message him. I'll get it off you. It'll work well. I just don't want it to blow up like the Cam Guthrie thing did, because everyone will be like, oh, Gaz, and what's he going to do with his jumper? Yeah. So anyway, righto, it's all done. I'm like so stoked. I'd end up sending Gaz a DM, slide in there. Hey, mate, thanks so much for that. I just thought it was the smart play, like just doing it offline. Seen, no reply, never to hear from Gary Ablett again. So I'm sure you'll listen to this. So we'll just send it up. Yeah, I'm sure you got a couple laying around, mate. The old did he wear 29? What number do you wear at the Cats? 29?
29, yeah.
29, yeah, the old sign. It'll be a blue number too, so just with a nice little silver Sharpie there. That'd be good. Thanks, Gaz. Straight to the pool room.
Should we call him?
Yeah, give him a buzz. Get it. I'm sure he'd have to know it. I don't want to. I think I was coming off 25 and 2, so he'd know the occasion.
It'd be funny if he picks up, but
buzz him.
Up here. Righto.
New phone.
He's not going to
New phone. Who dis?
Obviously, don't play this if he doesn't pick up. It'd be embarrassing.
You'll call Gary's phone.
Say he still owes me a jersey though. We'll get it. Pool room.
If he calls me back, we'll tee it up. Absolutely.
Keyword if. You touched on Maisie and Lynchy leaving at a time that the club was in, well, a bit of a, what's the phase? I wouldn't say turmoil, but nearly there, like quite controversial times for the clubs. The results weren't coming and they've decided to pursue other avenues. With me not being here, there's a lot of the term people use, like when you decided to stay, because I wasn't here and I couldn't get a vibe for how the club was and where they were at. Like what does that mean? I've heard Tony Cochran talk about, oh, Dave, when you decided to stay, like what is he meaning by that? And then with you staying, why did you stay? And like what I'm guessing, does the club, or did it mean to you then and means to you now?
Yeah, I guess. I still remember when Lynchy told me he was going. Like me and Lynchy were quite close, and he sat me down at paddock, and I knew it was coming. I was like, oh, you bastard!
This is it.
Yeah. No, I think at the time it was like I'd probably only just. So I think that was end of 2017 when or maybe it was even the end of 2018 when Lynchy left and Maisie. And it was kind of like I sort of had maybe 1 or 2 seasons back from injury, and I was like, like I reckon 2017 I was on one leg still. Like I was just sort of going with my knee, and then 2018 like just starting to feel a bit better about, you know, footy again. And yeah, I probably felt like I hadn't really given like the club my best. So when they like to see them leave, it was like obviously shattering. And then I was like looking around like, oh, who else was here?
Where are my
like,
boys?
Yeah, like, and we had like, obviously there was, you know, the years before that, you know, Jager had left, you know, Prestia, like Dixon.
And I could assume with all this happening, clubs see you as well and how you've played in the past, they'd be trying to pick you off as well.
Yeah, well, like I had sort of, I don't know if it was ever like went down that path, but I've spoken to another few clubs, and
as you do, that's normal for everyone.
Yeah. As guys are sort of weighing up, you know, what are the, you know, like I said, like you're just trying to make sense of it all. And I think at the time I was like, no, I want to try and do this and stick it out. And yeah, I think Witsy was here by then as well. So like me and Witsy got pretty close, and yeah, it was like, no, let's be like I guess be the first to try and like make something of the club. And then obviously, yes, there was some once you make the decision, it's like, yeah, you're all in. So and then what's that been now? Probably 5 or 6 years since.
After that, mate, so you played your 200th last year, and for someone who's, I would say, modest, reserved in a way, it was massive for the club. And we got up, it was against Geelong last year, wasn't it? Here?
Yep.
How did you feel after that? Like, because from what I gathered and from the outside looking in, like the love that poured out from the whole club and even externally, what you actually mean to the Gold Coast Suns, is something like that hard to cop, being the type of person you are? Like, does it take you back, or just talk us through that week, month even?
Yeah, I think like sort of a moment like that, given like I suppose the career that, you know, the sort of a lot of down times, like a lot of down moments probably you could say in my career, like, you know, seasons that haven't gone to plan, all the, you know, all the shit that's gone on. Yeah, like you don't really stop to think. And then when you have a game like that and a moment like that where you're like, oh, finally, like, shit, I actually ended up hitting 200 when I actually didn't know if I was going to play again at one point.
Yeah.
And then to see like the support, I was quite overwhelmed, because it was, yeah, like I kind of have always been one of those guys that I don't love the, you know, the limelight or whatever, you know, I don't love talking to cameras, but obviously like,
you put your hand up.
I'll put my hand up for this. Yeah,
that's all right.
I'll put my hand up for this, obviously, you know, mates with you. But yeah, I suppose that's kind of, yeah, I like that feeling, that overall feeling of just like being grateful. And, you know, as I suppose as big a journey as it's been at the club, you know, that was a moment like that was just like, that was the best, one of the best days of my life, you know, like, of course, getting married and, you know, having kids and stuff, we're up there. That was definitely one of the other, great days. I suppose for myself personally,
to get the win too,
and to be honest, if we had lost, like it probably wouldn't have been as good. Like it would have been still great, but the fact that we won, and I think it even like sort of, I think we were 0-2 going into that game, so it was like a must. And Geelong were 0-2 as well, I think. So it was like whoever won that was going to be 0-3, and made it, you know, could enjoy a beer after and sort of celebrate with those that were close to me. So
and I haven't experienced a milestone yet since my daughter Daisy come along. What's it like experiencing a milestone, one with kids, but then also I'm assuming Charlie, your eldest, sort of knows what's happening in that moment, and is it kind of an out of body experience? I'm guessing with like it's more about the family and like what it means to everyone. Like everyone comes in, it's in this big event.
Yeah, well, like you kind of see what it means to like what it means to Georgia, you know, my wife, and I suppose even seeing the kids there, it's like that's at the end of the day, that's kind of what it is about for me. You know, like it's about the people that you're doing it with, and the guys that have kind of stuck by you and been with you through all the good and bad times, and like sometimes I like look at Charlie. I'm like, oh, I wonder if he knows like what's actually going on here. But hopefully, like I can keep playing a few more years, and hopefully he'll get to remember some of the moments. Like he's just started school, so I was trying to think like back to when I was a kid, like when your first memories are. But
Yeah.
he's been to lots of games and all that sort of stuff. So I'm sure that some of those will stick.
Yeah, and on fatherhood, I was thinking with the list and where it's at, you would have been one of the first, due to us having quite a young list and a young stable here, to really have kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the list. And who did you bounce off in those times? Because like I notice now, like I ask you questions, I ask Witsy questions, I ask Lemo questions, and all the feelings are quite the same. Is that something that you struggled with, or did you have people outside of the four walls or even staff here that you really bounced off to navigate being a dad, a great partner, and really functioning as a footy player?
So I think like early days, there was like when I was a younger one, I sort of looked up to the guys that were, like Jared Harbrow and like, Risky Telly. Those are the sort of guys that had kids. Even Carmichael had kids back then. So there wasn't a heap of sort of older heads that had kids. So then, it was funny. Like when the year we had Charlie was also the year that the club had there was the Com Games on the coast. So we travelled, just had Charlie like the end of Feb, and then I think we travelled the first 10 weeks of that season. So
See you now.
So it was like looking back on that first like initial moments of having like amazing, like so good having like your first baby and whatever, and then you're like, it was absolute blur. Like I can't even like hardly remember. Like we went to China. Like it was just all this like so much happening. And it was funny. Like even Riggers, who's our high performance guy, like once he had kids, he didn't have kids at the time, and he didn't realize like. So I was getting no chop outs or anything. It was just like, but like it's funny. Like he obviously learnt through having kids. What it takes those first few moments. You're probably finding out now. Like I suppose this, you get used to going off a bit less sleep and all that sort of stuff. But
that's right. Any of the boys listening here, if you want a bit of a chop out at training, just pop a kid out. You'll miss them training in about 9 months' time. It's perfect.
Yeah, like that's kind of, it's been one of those things where like we probably haven't had the success like on field, but I feel like, I suppose from a footy like club point of view, it really feels like more of a footy club now than it ever has. Like we've got so many guys that have been here for a while, that have sort of committed themselves, and like like they're growing families, and that was sort of always like one of my visions for like the club, was just to make it like a family club where there was lots of boys running around with little ones, and it's cool to see. Yeah,
and we've touched on you starting off like a house on fire and then getting injured and then committing to the club. So after that, you're named co-skipper with Witsy.
Yep.
Can you talk me through that process and how you get told how they're going to go about it? Do you get presented a vision of where the club wants you to lead them? How does that process go?
So I think like it's hard to look back that long, but I think we had already sort of had an established maybe like a leadership group for that sort of season. And then it was kind of like getting down to close to the season. Everyone was like, "Oh, who's going to be skipper?" sort of thing. Remember Dewey and Hainsey put on a dinner at Dewey's joint, and they sort of just announced to the group. I think we may have done like a sort of leadership vote, but then
Did you vote for yourself?
I can't remember. Probably not.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I was pretty keen to do it at the time. I mean, it's one of those things, right, where you're like a kid and you grow up. That was sort of like one of those like you got to pinch yourself like moments, like you get named as like AFL skipper. That was sort of like a dream going up. Like I'd sort of skipped, I think my 18 or my 16s team in WA, things like that. That was so weird. We had dinner at Dewey's house that night, and they announced that me and Widow were going to do it together. So that was like to
That's a cool moment to share.
yeah,
with
a really
big
cool
fella.
moment to share with Widow, and like I said before, we'd gotten pretty close. So I don't think, like, if they had said to me, you were going to do it by yourself, like it would have been probably a big load at that time. And I don't know, they obviously didn't think I was up for it either. So probably the next best scenario was do it with Witsy. And like I really enjoyed that sort of process and that sort of, like I said, like learning, like I reckon the first 12 months we were both like, what is happening?
What is this?
What's going on? Yeah. Like we were clearly in like a rebuilding phase, with where the list was at. And so I think we sort of won like 3 games that year, or it was like, and I think we lost maybe like 18 in a row, like something like, I don't know, it was a record or something. It was tough. Like that first year was like, it was kind of, I remember thinking like, let's just get to the end of the season, like sort of back end, and then try and reset.
There's 7 games left, is there?
Yeah.
Shit.
Oh,
yeah.
Mate. So that would like, again, it's like what does all this mean? How trying to make sense of that. But yeah, like I suppose, I don't know, you got to kind of live on, I don't know, always been optimistic, it's just in my nature. So then it's like butter up again the next year, we go again sort of thing. And I don't think we won too many the next year. I think it was maybe similar, maybe we won 5 or 6. So it was sort of like gradual improvements the next few years. Yep. And then, I think maybe we won a similar number. And then I can't remember the details, but
as your time as skipper, how long was it? 5 years? 6 years?
No, I think it was only 3 years in the end.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Is there anything you would have changed? Any things like now in hindsight, any glaring things that pop up where you're like, gee, I wish I was a bit harder there, not as hard there, led in a different way? Because from the way I've seen you around here, you've led by example. Like you're cracking harder than anyone I've seen. So there's a tick. What you do out on the field, is there anything that you reckon within here that you would have changed, or any instances that you reckon you could have avoided?
Yeah, it's hard, right? Like I think they always tell you like, just be yourself, you're skipper for a reason sort of thing. It's like there's obviously certain strengths that I had I suppose as a leader. Maybe I didn't ask for help as much. Maybe I wasn't as hard on the group at certain times. But then again, it was like we were winning 3. We weren't going that well. So it was.
How hard do you go?
Well, how hard do you go, and how was trying to connect the group as well as we could. I think ultimately there was probably, like, me and Jared were quite similar in terms of how we go about it. Maybe Jared's
bit taller.
He's a bit taller, yeah. Ultimately, I thought maybe what the group needed was another leader like Took. So I thought that may have been in the group's best interest. So ultimately, that's why I was like, I sort of done my time, done the as best job as I could. I mean, there's certain things I could have done better, like absolutely. But I think like it's one of those you're learning on the go, and you just I did the best I could with the knowledge I had, I guess. Yeah,
that's good.
I don't know.
That's
yeah,
good.
I mean, like trying to think like we did all these, like we try to implement all these sort of different sessions. I try to get I did like some different leadership courses and stuff, really, to try and I guess fast track my development. But yeah.
And righto, that's enough footy. So
serious stuff.
When you leave the club,
sweating.
Yeah, when you the hot seat, mate, the hot seat, they're coming in thick and fast.
Aircon in here or what?
When you leave the footy club, obviously you'll knock off here soon, and apart from going home and cooking dinner, I'm sure George has had the kids all day. You'll go home and whip something up. Like what do you do outside of footy? What do you do now to keep yourself ticking?
outside of footy. So yeah, I suppose like my priority is like looking after family and the kids. But yeah, I think I sort of see myself sort of going down the path of like player management when I finish. Potentially, yeah, that's sort of where like my energy's sort of been off field for the last 12 months. Yeah, I think like trying to weave my like love for like helping people and to just like spending time with people if I see something they need to try and help them, and I don't know, see that as a pretty cool fit. I'd love to ideally stay up on the coast, so if I can make that work up here, that'd be great. But yeah, like I sort of open to anything really, mate. It's
well, you still got 4 or 5 years of footy
that's
left to go, mate. That's the hard part, isn't it?
Everything that's sort of happened to this point, it's like
we're about to get going.
Yeah, and like I don't know, I feel like the club's is in best shape it's been. You know, not just because of, you know, it's been a build up of the last sort of 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, the last years had to have happened.
Yeah, it's sort of like
to be where we are.
But yeah, like the list is coming to a good age. I don't know. Like I just want to try and hang on as long as I can to be a part of it. Be
similar to like as you mentioned, other players like Nathan Jones, sort of at Melbourne.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I suppose in my head, there's no guarantee that like I'll be a part of that team that like, you know, takes it to the ultimate sort of prize or whatever, or even has a shot at it. But I'd love just to still be around and trying to help as much as possible. But hopefully the leagues can hang on, and I don't know, mate. Same with you. You probably
whoa. I'm not that old.
Wow,
I'm not that
30
old.
next year, are you?
This year.
Oh, this year.
Yeah, July.
Yeah.
So put that in your diary, everyone.
And I think the way, you know, we get not looked after, like we still train very hard, but I don't know, it seems like guys are really look after themselves, you know, off the field, probably better than they ever have. And
yeah, I reckon players are playing a lot older now, don't you reckon?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. So
they used to write you off, big black line through your name when you were over 30. Now guys are playing till they're 34, 35.
Well, like my brother, he retired at 30. Basically, I think he had, so he played 12 seasons.
I feel like he played forever.
Oh, yeah, I know. So I've already played another whole year more than him, and I feel like he was like physically, he had a few injuries. Like he had his Achilles later on in his career, but like he could have played. He's 30.
He could still play now. Saw him at the Byron Beach Hotel moving pretty well on Friday Arvo. Gone.
So he came up here, ended up playing like a couple of years of sort of quaffle and that. But yeah, I think like the way they look after guys, there's no reason I can't hold on for another few more.
Yeah, that's right. Stay as long as you can. And the one we're finishing off on with everyone, mate, is we kind of just touched off on it, but where do you see yourself in 5 years? Is that player management? What is that? Where are you taking it? Well,
did I answer the right? What question did you ask me before?
I said, what do you do when you go home?
Oh, right. So I answered.
You can answer that one.
I answered the wrong question before.
Right. So you answered where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Yeah, that's what I thought you meant.
Okay.
So
said,
what do I do when I go home?
How about we finish on then? So clip that. That is just gone. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? All right, that's good. Player manager. Love that.
Yeah.
But we won't get there too early because he still wants to play.
Yeah.
What do you do when you? What do you do? Well, I opened it up for you to talk about your lovely wife and kids, mate, and you've just talked about being a player manager. I thought you meant like
where do I see myself in 5? Like
no, well, so what do you do at the minute when you go home? That's what I was asking. What makes you tick? And you just completely
I did start with my priority was my kids. Yeah, what I do when we go home? Yeah, that's it. Basically, hang out with Georgia and the kids and Charlie and Lucy.
Couple of Ridgies.
Yeah, got a couple of Rhodesian Ridgebacks at home. They're for sale if anyone.
Free to a good home.
Free to a good home. Oh, they've just at this. We've had them for a while, and they just. I don't know. Now, once you have kids, as you know, I think we should talk about Bo.
Yeah, both. Yeah, parted ways is the wrong term, but I've got a bulldog, my first ever dog, a British bulldog. I'm not going to say I've sent him to a good mate's parents' house because just with the kid, my daughter Daisy, that it's just been too much and the humidity has been too much for him. So had a bit of a cry the other day when they come and picked him up. My first ever dog. They've gone and taken him. They've got bulldogs. They're a bulldog family. Like everything that my partner Georgia finds finds off about him. They're like, like I love him so much. So that was a very, very hard time getting the updates from them. But I know what you mean, mate. With trying to maneuver 2 dogs.
Oh, well, just to be fair, like we've got a yard and stuff, but it's not for 2 Rhodesian Ridgebacks. Like they kind of need to get walked every day, and like one of the oldest, like Duke, is just in the stage where he's like eating nappies and like he's I don't know, he's lost the plot. Like he's. I saw him eating his own shit the other day, so it's like I felt like.
So was that bloke from your year 12 hallway that you threw it down there, mate?
I just feel like, it's a lot to deal with the kids, and then you got to go and deal with the dogs too. But we love them. We love them, but they also there'll be a time when we'll be happy just the 4 of us, I think.
One that I'm interested to touch on, and we'll finish up there, like the role that, well, one that I've just noticed, and it's really just in the forefront of myself now, but what a partner does for their significant, or their husband in this case, you and Georgia, but then also whilst playing footy, like the magnitude and how sacrificial they have to be for us to look. We get paid accordingly, but like the sacrifices they need to make as your significant other, wife, girlfriend, for us to actually achieve our dreams and raise a family. Yeah, it's very selfless. Like it's, even like I suppose our circumstances, like Georgia moved, like we knew each other growing up in high school, eventually got together sort of, when I was living up here, and then she eventually made the move, and been on the journey sort of since it was, basically the whole time, but sort of 21 when she made the move over, and then, like kind of to put her sort of like goals and dreams and everything on hold is like she, right before we had Charlie, so she opened up a cafe, but then that coincided with having her first baby. So it was like all this happening for her, but then she probably never really got to like pursue that properly because it was just poor timing. Like we started a family, and the roles that the partners play, like it's pretty amazing, as you know. Like George has chased you up here as well, and now you've got your little one. So I think not just myself and sorry, my partner's name's Georgia.
We both got Georgia.
For reference here, So you're actually anyway.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like they do an amazing job, and it's probably a period of our life that, in a way, it requires a bit of like for us being selfish in a way, but it's like it's not lost on me, and I'm sure it's not lost on you. The like being able to be given back as much as that they give us as well. No, very well said. Well, we'll leave it there,
anyway.
Mate.
So let's just clarify that we both have partners, and both of their names are Georgia. So
we don't swap.
We'll leave it there. Thanks so much for sharing, mate. Awesome, and as I mentioned, very integral part of the footy club, and looking forward to seeing you smash it the next few years as well, mate.
Thanks, Rat. It's good to see you kind of putting your passion, ability to chew people's ear off to work. So,
we do this in the locker room every day, don't we? So,
it's good, mate. I think it's without sort of it being worded up for this. I think it's great for the
I'll slip you that 10 later
for the club as well. Like it's I'm hopefully it goes well for you. So
thanks, mate.
Good work.